Good Monday morning. It is so cold that the warmest room in the house is upstairs here in the libraries, and because heat rises, so what little heat there is at the moment has come up here, and I've followed it up to be with you a little warmer this morning. And excuse the hat in the house. It's not because I'm trying to look cool. It's because I'm cold. Okay. But anyway, the other day I put up a sort of a little quote, quoting myself, and somebody turned it into a meme about what if your everyday circumstances of your life are really initiations, and the people in your life are the initiating officers. And then I said, well, if they are you paying attention to it? Okay. And so keeping with that theme, a number of years ago, I wrote something, and then I've shared it with you over the last couple of years of doing these morning things. But I'm just going to read a little piece of it because it concerns initiation itself and the fact that there is formal initiations. Like the Masons or the Golden Dawn or the Martinists or Oddfellows. And there's a process, there's a formula of initiation that the organization that you might be joining or being initiated into may not be overtly magical at all, but the formula of initiation is magical. And it's a process of evolution. And whatever the organization is, it could be as innocuous as a labor union or a guild or something like that. But it's meant to enlarge you. The person that walks into an initiation is not the same person, theoretically, that walks out of the initiation. So I'm reading from an essay that I wrote called "Passing the Pylons," and I'm not going to read the whole thing, so don't worry. But it refers to and makes reference to the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Stuck between the legs of every well-dressed Egyptian mummy. I just wanted to start a sentence off like that. Stuck between the legs of every well-dressed Egyptian mummy is a magical text written, so tradition would have us believe, by the god Thoth himself. It is a painfully detailed map of every aspect of the projected imagination of God. Memorized to perfection in life, it enabled the recently deceased to negotiate step by step the ordeals and the confusion of post-mortem existence, and become absorbed, as it were, fully identified with the immortal deity. The text is known to us as the Book of the Dead. And while unquestionably the scriptural centerpiece of an elaborately complex religious institution, it is, in my opinion, the fundamental handbook of initiation. There are those who will argue that I'm either overstating or understating the case. If that I were a serious scholar of this subject, I'd be aware of the complex evolution of the document, its arbitrary redundancies, omissions, and superfluous attachments. To such criticism, I humbly offer no resistance. In the now 50 years since laziness induced me to sort of put aside the Book of the Dead, I have not gone back to college to receive a degree in Egyptology, nor have I taken it upon myself to learn hieroglyphics or become an amateur archaeologist. However, in that same half-century, the gods have seen fit to allow me the privilege of ritually officiating the degree initiations of a great many individuals. I stopped counting at 700. The dialogue and blocking of the ceremonies long ago transcended memorization and has freed me to stand apart from myself and witness the proceedings from a magical vantage point. Within the sealed membrane of the tiled temple, time is suspended. I see in the darkness, and without any effort on my own, I'm repeatedly allowed to become both the initiator and the candidate. It is in this capacity that I offer my credentials to comment on the subject. The next little heading is, want to be a member? Want to be a member? And that's from the Max Fleischer Betty Boop cartoon called Bimbo's Initiation. If you've never seen it, it's a psychedelic early cartoon romp. Anyway, almost every facet of modern degree initiation has its complement in the Book of the Dead. Just as the deceased is progressively raised to complete identity with the glorified Osiris, so too the modern candidate is eventually raised to mastership of the rite. But even before the series of initiation begins, the candidate must undergo tests of his or her fitness to enter the rite. Are there any skeletons in the closet that, if undiscovered, would bring embarrassment or shame upon the craft? Are the reasons for joining honorable? Such soul-searching must occur before the candidate petitions the lodge in writing, formally requesting to be considered for membership. And then I have a quote from the Book of the Dead. I'm not going to read all the quotes, but the Book of the Dead has a counterpart to that, the confession. Oh, my heart, which I had from my mother. Oh, my heart, which I had from my mother. My heart of the different ages, don't stand against me, up as a witness against me, all that, okay. The candidate must have a sponsor from within the lodge who vouches for the candidate and who will serve as his or her advocate. And then there's a little section of the Book of the Dead that covers that. Who hopefully accepts the recommendation of the sponsor and accepts the petition. Okay. Under the heading, you can't get there from here. And what I'm trying to describe in this little section is that each degree is like protected by a membrane. And when you enter that membrane, you're all sort of firing on the same level of consciousness. And the next degree higher is a more subtle and more intense level of consciousness, and you have to literally puncture yourself out of the lower level into the higher level and enter a new membrane, and that membrane is these different pylons. If it's the tree of life, I'll get to that. If it's the tree of life, you have to break out of the membrane of the level of consciousness associated with number 10 and break into a new, higher, subtler level of consciousness of the membrane of number 9, like that. Okay. Under the heading, you can't get there from here. The right itself represents the universe in its totality, and the master or hierophant symbolizes the supreme being. Each degree is a subdivision of the absolute, and it's impossible to comprehend the greater reality of each ascending world unless one is an illuminated master of the preceding degree. The temple workings in temple workings, this reality is strictly acknowledged. As an example, Blue Lodge Masonry. All routine business is conducted in the 3rd degree temple. In order to open the lodge in the 3rd degree, it's necessary to first formally open the 1st, then 2nd degree. Now, technically nowadays, this may not be the case, but ideally this was the case. And it is in magical societies. If lower degree business, such as passing of a 2nd degree candidate, is scheduled, the lodge must then be formally lowered to the previous degree, or the appropriate degree. In magical orders, the grades correspond directly to levels of human consciousness and are based upon recognizable schematics, such as the Tree of Life or the 30 Enochian Aethers. It's not a prerequisite in most orders for the candidate to actually achieve these progressively exalted states of consciousness. An order possessed of such omniscience to accurately judge such matters is most not likely easily found in the phone book. In most instances, including very serious magical orders, the degrees serve merely as a roadmap for the candidate's inevitable personal odyssey. It's not uncommon for the truths, quote, truths, unquote, communicated to the candidate in lower degrees to be amended or even contradicted in higher degrees. Quote, be nice to your mother may be a worthy sentiment for a neophyte, but a master of the temple is well advised to, quote, tear thy mother from thy heart. Under the heading, Halt, who goes there? Perhaps the most outstanding feature of the Book of the Dead is that the deceased is required on multiple occasions to pass through a series of gates or pylons. At each point, the traveler is barred from entry by a guardian who demands the secret keys unique to that particular station. In Chapter 17 of the Book of the Dead, it outlines a journey through 7 gates. At each gate, the deceased is required to correctly state the name of the gatekeeper, is required to correctly state the name of the guardian of the gate, and the name of the announcer who will proclaim the success or failure to pass. If successful, the deceased is then has to declare the powers and the nature of that station and the cosmic role he or she will be required to perform. And I give an example. The 4th gate. The name of the gatekeeper is one whose face repels, one of multitudinous voices. And the name of the guardian is Alert One. And the name of the announcer is one who repels the crocodile. Now, the words spoken by the candidate, who is playing Osiris Ani here, the vindicated, when arriving at the gate, this is what the candidate says, "I am the bull, the son of the kite of Osiris. Behold, you witnesses for my father, the possessor of his gate. I have cut off harm from him. I have brought life for him and his nose for eternity. I am the son of Osiris. Make a path for me so that I might pass by in the God's domain." Okay, so that's how you resist the obstruction. In a sense, you bullshit your way into it. But you're dealing with spiritual forces, spiritual obstacles. Like a magician doing Solomonic magic. The magician must first bamboozle himself or herself into full identity with the God of the universe. Like Solomon. Solomon had to immediately bamboozle himself with the confidence that he is a direct reflection of deity and therefore qualified to control the spirits. And then once the magician has bamboozled himself, he then proceeds to bamboozle the spirits. Oh, this guy, I think this guy knows what he's saying, kind of thing. Okay, but I digress. Evolution is the result of the threefold process of resistance, struggle, and mutation. The fundamental secret of initiation is revealed by the fact that the candidate is repeatedly barred, tested, and then passed. The triad of primary initiating officers also reflects this process. In many rites, the candidate is halted at various stations of the temple and interrogated or confronted with an ordeal. Then, with the aid of a ritual guide or advocate, the candidate overcomes the ordeal and is given permission by the supreme authority to continue. Initiates of the Golden Dawn tradition will recognize in the above offices the offices or officers Hegemon, Hiereus, and Hierophant. Hegemon is the good cop. That's your guide. It's like your holy guardian angel. Lets you in, backs you up, brings you from station to station. But at each point, he's stopped by the bad cop, that hard-nosed asshole. You can't get in here, and that's the Hiereus, Horus in the Golden Dawn. And with the help of your guide, your hegemon, you satisfactorily satisfy the Hiereus. And ultimately, the Hierophant in the east, Osiris himself says, "Hierophant, let him by." Okay. The threefold action is also involved at the threshold of the modern temple. In many instances, members are stopped, usually by an armed guard, and required to deliver secret signs, grips, and words that will prove they are bona fide members of the degree currently worked. If a member arrives late, he or she must prove to the guardian at the outside of the temple, who must inform a guardian on the inside of the temple, who in turn vouches for the latecomer and asks permission from the master or hierophant that they be admitted. Now, I'm going to digress here. In many sort of non-overtly magical organizations, during the initiation ceremony, you're actually stopped from moving forward by a weapon pointed, touching your body. So you can't go past this dagger or this implement. And as unesoteric as these organizations may seem, as unmagical as these organizations might seem, whoever threw the initiation together just happens to point that instrument, to poke you, to prod you, to discomfort you on a part of your body directly associated with a different chakra. As if each degree membrane was an activation, a set to spinning of a particular chakra and the level of consciousness associated with that psychic center. Okay. There is no question that the cosmic significance of lodge behavior is lost on the objective mind of most candidates and members, especially while it's happening. You're going, what the hell's going on here? Yet, I would wager that even the most lukewarm oddfellow has had at least one fitful night's sleep in which his credentials, his apron, or his memory of signs and grips have been challenged in a temple nightmare. Once imprinted upon the subconscious mind, the formula of initiation is difficult, if not impossible, to remove. You're mutated by it, literally. If allowed to imprint the deepest stratum of the psyche, it may even provide the diligent aspirant the key to overcoming death. And that's where I'll leave it today, and we'll pick up part 2 tomorrow and sort of discover what it is I mean by that and its relationship to the Book of the Dead. And if you're curious, this Passing the Pylons section is actually chapter 5 of a very old book of mine, Angels, Demons, and Gods of the New Millennium. And as a teaser, even though it's the first thing of that chapter, I'm going to finish today with it. And it's a little section from Crowley's Rite of Saturn, the first of the 7 rites of Aloysius. The Master of the Temple says, "Let us enter the ark of increased knowledge." And the officer playing the part of Brother Aquarius says, "Master, what is increased knowledge?" And the Master of the Temple answers, "Death." Brother Aquarius says, "Master, what is the ark thereof?" And the Master of the Temple says, "The grave." And the 2 officers, Brother Aquarius and Capricornus, answer this together, or ask together, "Master, how shall we enter it?" And the Master of the Temple says, "Arise and follow me." Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.